been gone for a couple weeks.
Had to go to France,
Tough life. Yeah, where we're sled dogging for our lives, and you're in France.
Sorry. Though obviously a couple of guys are missing from the running back room this week. You've got Dunn and Twitty kind of back there as a backup. Are you looking at anybody else potentially, like maybe move a receiver, defensive back, or do you even grasp at that straw right now?
It's a good question. It's a valid question, but not right now. Like the roster is what it is. Like you're not changing positions, getting someone ready that quickly. But you have to do what you have to do is last week you saw more 10 personnel because we were banged up at tight end, and part of a coach's job is to be able to adjust personnel, which is the hard. It's like the most stressful thing on Monday when you're looking at your depth chart and you're saying, okay, who are our best 11 to give us a chance to win a game? Now it's okay. What if something happens to this guy? And you're in the business of contingency plans, and you have to see the weakness of a roster before it becomes a weakness. So we go through that. Monday is very stressful. It's why we have gray hair as coaches. It's why we age like presidents. And because like you sit here and you think about all these like what ifs and try to figure out the best. You look at your roster, and this time of year it's so far into it, you don't have time to switch positions, and you got to use your personnel groupings, and you have to be creative like we were last week with those things.
With the handful of drops that were in the first half, what do you take away from that set of two quarters, and how do you kind of weigh like what could have been when it was at the end of the game? It looked like pretty good.
Yeah, it's I thought we moved the ball well. I think weather's advantageous for the offense because I think we know break points and DBs don't. So I think that it's funny. I can tell a story about we're playing San Francisco and I was in Chicago and it's snowing. And it's 7-7, and Coach Fox is kind of getting after me about throwing the ball a lot. And I remembered we played the Patriots in 2009. We got beat bad, like 59-0 bad on a Thursday night game or Sunday night game. And Brady, it was like 35-0 in the first quarter. And I'm sitting there watching this, and Brady's throwing the ball all over the lot versus us. And DBs are slipping and falling. And you look at that, and Coach Fox tells me it's a 7-7 game. He's like, hey, run the ball. I'm like, Coach, we have the advantage throwing the ball because DB, we know the break point, and they're slipping and following. He's like, hey, run the ball. It kind of gave me what, hey, if this doesn't work, and I'm like, hey, I can live with the consequences of that. And we ended up beating them like 32-7. And Matt Barkley threw for like 250, 300 yards in a snow game. So I think there's some advantages playing in weather for the offense that people think it becomes a line of scrimmage game because when it's sloppy and it's raining and the field's muddy or it's icy, like people like offensive linemen can't come off the ball. Like they just can't get footing. So we knew early like throwing the ball was going to be advantageous for us. And we hurt ourselves with false starts and drops early in the first quarter. So when we got to halftime, the message was more like, hey, like it's not what we're doing. We just got to clean this stuff up. And there's protocols to playing in weather. Make sure you're switching out gloves and you don't want to have sleeves on. And our equipment staff did a great job of that stuff, and we were prepared. Coach Beamer had those guys prepared, and Larry and his staff did a great job for us. And just settling down and focusing on the fundamentals, and all of a sudden, in the second half we played a lot better. I think we scored 4 out of our 5 drives or something like that. But it wasn't a change in play calling, or it was a change in just execution. And kind of get through some of that. You got to go. We water down balls in training camp, and we practice in rain. But until you go do something like that, you're not used to it. So we kind of settled down. I was really happy with the way they played in the second half.
Hey, Dal, hope you're doing well. Just wanted to ask you quickly about Omega Blake. What have you what are some of the good qualities he's kind of shown you this season as a receiver, and how big can these next 2 games kind of be for him and his development going into next year?
Yeah, I think Omega is a good route runner. He's got natural twitch in his body. He's a guy that's played a handful of snaps for us in each game and done a good job when he's come in. And he's a guy that needs to grow and needs confidence. And, confidence can only be born from demonstrated ability. So getting out there, and every time he plays, he gets a little bit better. And, he's a guy from that standpoint, he's a rotational guy that's going to continue to work in. And the things we do like about him, he has real twitch in his body. He can be a really good route runner for us. And as he continues to grow and play better, then his role will continue to increase.
You were able to start the same 5 up front 2 weeks in a row for the first time all year from a court.
Hey, you're going to jinx us. Go on.
Past tense, you were able to.
Yeah.
From a coordinator's perspective, what does that actually do? Can you kind of explain how that maybe helps you play calling beyond just the continuity aspect of it?
Yeah, I think it probably helps Spencer more than it helps me. So what does that do? Well, you go back, and I think there were 28 first downs. I think there were 13 runs and 15 passes and no negative plays. And I think that comes from guys playing together. And, I would love to sit here and tell you, like, guys, some of our issues become because of individual breakdowns. It's not that. Like, we have a talent. We have a talented group, and some of them are really young, but it's playing together. And so when you get to play together, like, that helps you more than anything. And it's for just the continuity of doing that stuff. Like, I thought you saw Spencer. You take away drops in that game. I think he's 33 of 36 or 34 of 36, and because the pocket was really clean, we protected well. Mario Anderson played really well without the ball. Was really good in pass protection, but I think that experience of playing together is huge, and I think Spencer played well, and our passing game played well, and went because of how those guys getting to play together.
Dell, I know there's no magic wand, but with being able to play at home this season, it seems like you guys have really been able to get things going from an offensive standpoint. Meetings, maybe just something in terms of just the routine, anything leading up to it. Can you pinpoint? I know it's multiple things, but
yeah.
Are there any things that maybe even the day before, just from a routine standpoint, that you think has helphelped this offense play so well at home?
Coach Beamer's really creative on, and we've changed the schedule the last 2 weeks, and 2 home games, 2-0, or the last 2 wins. So he's tweaked things around, and we do different stuff. We've gone to a movie a couple times, which we haven't done, and sometimes you get in for us, Coach Beamer's preached, hey, less is more. So maybe it's less volume, more execution. Maybe it's less volumes, running it more times at practice. So we have more detail. Maybe it's less practice reps and more walkthrough reps. Maybe it's more time playing together. That atmosphere in that stadium is as good as any I've ever been in my life, in pro football or college football. And so I think that's a big part of it. Like, there's a confidence level when you walk into Willie B that, my kids feel it. It's a special, special place. And when you have a home advantage like we have, I wish we could play all our games there, because there is, whatever that is, that there is an advantage when you walk in that place, and our guys think whoever that opponent is, whoever it is going to have a really hard time beating us in our home stadium, and not everybody can say that. And we have a very special venue that way, where it's extremely unique to us, and it's extremely and the fans deserve a ton of credit. I listened to Josh Simon's press conference last week, and he's talking about the fans and the guys who sat through the rain and hung with us in the rain, and a sloppy first half, but when you get to play at home, it's different. It's different. Not everyone has it, but we do, and we're very fortunate that way. So I think it's on top of being maybe smarter in preparation, starting with the head coach, doing a little bit less, and do what we do better. I think it's people playing together more. It's having the same starting offensive lineup for 2 or 3 weeks in a row now, and I think it's guys. I think well-coached teams get better as the season goes. I think you see teams that really buy into what their head coach is about get better at the end of the season, and I think that's why South Carolina has been pretty good in November, December around here for the last 3 years.
Dowell, it's silly season. Coaching carousel starts to spin. Obviously, Arkansas has an OC opening, and your name gets brought up. If you had any contact with that, would you be interested in that if it came open?
Do you want to go back to France? All right. I don't want to give coach talk. I don't want to be that guy and be like, we're on to Cincinnati or on to Kentucky. That was a Belichick reference. Look, I understand why my name comes up there. I went to school there. I was born there. I played football there. My wife was a cheerleader there. She's from Arkansas. I had an unbelievable opportunity to go back and coach at my alma mater, which is awesome. And I hope that everyone gets that aspires to get that. On the flip side of that is I really believe in Coach Beamer, and I believe in what we do here. And I think it's disrespectful to think about anything other than my promise I made to Spencer Rattler when I got here, and Juice Wells and Xavier Legette when I'm trying to recruit those guys to come back or not get in the transfer portal, to not enter the NFL draft, and what we have here and what we've built. It hadn't been the season we won, but I'm extremely appreciative of the effort that those guys have given, the toughness that Spencer's played through this whole season. And my family's happy here. My wife's happy here. My kids are happy in school. So that's how I'm going to answer that question and be as honest and transparent as I could. Like, I believe in what's going on here, and I hope that everyone does. I believe in the players in our locker room. I love my quarterbacks, from Spencer to Lenoris to Tanner to Colt to Luke Doty, to the guys that are coming. Like, I deeply, deeply care about those guys. And there are a lot of players at Arkansas that I got to coach there for 2 years that I deeply care about and so I have really good relationships with. But I'm here, and I'm happy. My wife's happy. My kids are happy. And I love coming to work every day. And that's the most important thing to me is walking through that door. I work for a guy that I don't believe in who he is, but I also believe in why he's doing it as well.
With one of those quarterbacks you mentioned, the second one who played on Saturday, seems like that's someone most folks want to talk about more than the other guy. So what can you say about Lenoris?
I saw his grandma after the game. I was walking out, and she said, "Coach, you still think he sucks?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She says, "Good." I'm keep telling him that. No, but I mean, he is like when he gets out there, good things happen. But good things happen to him because he's a good player that works really hard, and he's about the right stuff. He does things the right way. He prepares the right way. I think that I don't know everything was said, but I think Coach White maybe mentioned him last week as far as what he does on the scout team. Like, he's a good player, and we got 2 or 3 other good players in that room as well. But to go out there and you're trying to run the clock out, and then they manned us up, and we had a zone read call with an RPO tag just because we wanted to get the first down and run the clock out. Well, so it's a little different when Spencer's doing it versus because it's something we had done early in the game, and we're popping the ball out. Well, now so they manned us up, and now he reads the backside defensive end and runs through 2 people and outruns everyone else. So I'm pleased with not only what he's done in the classroom, on the football field, in the weight room. This is a kid that's gained 17, 18 pounds of muscle. I think when you see him, you look at his lower body, he looks different than when he first got here. I think he's faster than when he first got here. So I'm going to give Coach Day and that group a lot of credit for that. I'm also going to give him the credit for putting in the work. And he is like this every day. Like, he is the same kid every day. And we joke with him because, like, how calm and how just every day it's just like, hey, do you like this play? It's okay. Hey, are you comfortable with this? It's fine. Like, that's who he is every day. And I'm very, very fortunate to coach him. And I got to give credit to Spencer and Tanner and Luke and Colt in the room because when the young kid goes in second, and it's also because Luke's playing receiver as well, but when the young kid goes in second, he needs to get these experiences. Like, there's an awesome picture that Spencer put in the group chat, the quarterback group chat, of like him walking on the field with Lenoris with his arm around him. He's like, proud papa. And like, for that, like, that's why you coach. And like, just for they care about each other so much. And there's a video of Tanner like freaking out, going super fired up when Lenoris scores. And like, that's the type of room we have. And that's the special connection that's being built here and will continue to be built here, that they all pull for each other. So Lenoris did a good job when he got out there.
Dal, Shane talked about this a little bit yesterday, but using John Darius Morgan a little bit as that sort of like quasi tight end, just how did you guys end up in that formation? And
yeah, we were looking at the roster on Monday, and without Knox fought through and could have played if we needed him, and Josh was playing well for us at the time, and Trey definitely wasn't 100%, but he was ready if we needed him, and really pushed through a lot to get to that point and show toughness. But then you're looking at your best 11, and it's like, okay, look, if something happens to Josh, not like God forbid that happened, but then like now you got to put Trey back out there. Well, now is let's use this personnel grouping not only to like, hey, but sometimes it gives you a breather play of like Josh, hey, let him go block as a point of attack tight end and run Big 12 that way. That's what we call it, Big 12, and put an extra offensive lineman in there so it can also keep if your tight end numbers aren't the way you want them, to keep other guys fresh. So it's kind of like they're breather plays, but they're still good plays for us. And I do think morale goes up with when people have a role, like people that dress, and like all of a sudden, like, hey, I've got this package, and I've got this package. And I think it goes back to using defensive linemen in the goal line situation. Like, those guys that get excited. I saw Boogie on the way up, and he's like, hey, what you got for me this week? And I'm like, hey, chill. Like, on last Wednesday, you're on a scooter. Like, and you're catching touchdowns and making plays on Saturday. But I think it keeps morale up, and those guys, especially, they're earned. And they're small roles, and no one's writing about JD, the role he played, but he came in and did a good job for us and helped us in a time where we weren't healthy and served a role for us.
Spencer, I thought it was pretty crazy that he was able to get, Xavier Legette was able to have over 100 yards, but he also threw the ball to 10 guys.
Yeah.
Is that a scheme thing, or is that Spencer being able to go through his reads, or just your receiver stepping up?
I think it's both. I think it's a great question. I didn't know that, and it's kind of like what we just talked about, like everyone playing a role. It keeps morale high when guys are appreciated, and everyone wants to touch the ball, and there's only one ball, and it's hard sometimes to spread it around, especially when you have Xavier Legette and you want to get him the ball. But it's a combination of guys getting better through the months of November and December and continue to get better through the season. And guys, when their numbers called, going in and making plays, Spencer getting through progressions. And some of those times, like those are, like he's getting to 3 or 4 in progression to get backside. I mean, you guys know that Legette most of the time is going to be 1 or 2 in a progression. Sometimes we use him as a decoy, but not very often. So when he's getting backside to things and guys are making plays for him, and the other thing it does is it gives Spencer confidence to get to a progression where he doesn't have to be fixated on throwing the ball to Legette all the time. And the Knicks and Tyshons and Luke Doty and AB and Peyton Mangram played 16, 17 snaps for us, and I'm sure I'm going to miss some of that. That's why I don't like individualizing people like Josh and JD played, and Nick Elskis played, and Connor Cox played. Like all those guys, like it's just good for them to play, and it's good for this time of the season for everyone to play. It keeps morale high. They continue. The only way to get better is to go play football. Like you get better from practice, but you got to go do it on Saturdays. That experience helps, and then making plays in games helps as much as anything. Appreciate you guys.